Hi, doctor. I'm looking through this case with the goal of creating some interocclusal clearance for the anterior bridge. And we're on a few refinements here. And so I'm seeing that ultimately you really need and want the lower anterior teeth to intrude. Now, they're going to come buckle fairly easily because that's a movement that doesn't have a lot of resistance. But the intrusion is what can be more challenging. This is one of the initial plans, and having retention attachments in throughout the premolars and the molar is an awesome plan there. So this should have worked fairly well. This molar movement may have been a bit distracting, but not enough to have this ultimately fail. So then we're going from treatment plan 3 to treatment plan 4. And I wasn't there throughout the process, but it looks like there was a reboot of some kind because not much happened. Now, the thing that's going to be hard from this standpoint is reusing retention attachments does not work very well. You can see whenever we scan attachments, we really don't get those sharp edges that we're looking for, and that really is the key. So I can see why this wouldn't have been as successful. Then we're looking at treatment plan 7 and treatment plan 8. Um, so treatment plan 7 was approved, and we're getting less coverage of the terminal molar. So that means the aligner isn't going to be as well engaged with the arch, and we really do need this to be snapped in. From there, there's a lot of premolar movements and rotation, as well as this more difficult molar movement being planned. So although there's some intrusion, we don't have the retention attachments that we're looking for. Plus, I suspect, although I'm not sure, that there may be some mesiodistal root angle movements. So if we pull up the tooth movements table, we can look at treatment plan 7 and the lower numbers, and there really wasn't. So that's a good thing. Some mysterious root control on the premolar, but again, we're not getting the retention attachments that we're really looking for to get predictable intrusion. And also, with the amount of black triangles that he has here, I would plan some IPR. That's going to lengthen the contact point, which is more stable in the retention phase. It can also allow the teeth to slide past each other because I'm wondering if there's some collisions that are happening as well. So let's go ahead and modify this plan so we can really get the intrusion that you and this patient are looking for. And that's going to start with not moving that molar. It's not very helpful to the case, especially when you're looking for that clearance. And as if we were to look more carefully through the previous treatments, I think we'd find that that one hasn't made a significant contribution. Having this be a retention attachment is great. And then because the terminal of this aligner is going to be cut off on the occlusal, adding an additional retention attachment all the way back so that way the aligner is snapped in and not loosey-goosey is going to be more comfortable for the patient and add more predictability. So adding more of these retention attachments. Retention attachments can be a rectangle, they can be a deep bite attachment, they can be a optimized retention attachment. All of these function as a retention attachment because what they have in common is this long undercut surface. And when we do the live update, we'll see the retention attachment again. Now, we don't just want to change the attachments, right? Because then if we play this backwards and forwards, this is still rotating. So we do need to take away the underlying movement. Unfortunately, sending this to the CAD designers or the live update won't follow our logic on that. So this is things that we need to program in ourselves here. So the premolars, not perfect positions, but that was never really the goal. So intruding here some on the canine, intruding here. Now, we don't need an intrusion attachment directly on the canine to help with that intrusion. It's all about the retention attachments that are on the posterior aspect of the teeth. And then from here, I'm going to add in that IPR if I can. So we've already done some, but there's such large triangular spaces and such an opportunity to do more IPR. I'm gonna go for it. Okay. And then the other thing that we want to do is to overtreat the intrusion. So if we'd like to get to this point, then on the ClinCheck, you need to plan for more. The ClinCheck, unfortunately, is not an exact visualization of how the teeth are going to finish. It does a pretty good job with the easier movements like the buccal lingual tipping, as that's a fairly predictable movement. But the movements where we're pushing against bone and we're getting a lot of tooth resistance, that is where we need to overtreat it. And the thing is, this will generate more aligners, but once you get to the point that you and the patient are happy, you don't need to use all 15 or 20 or however many aligners this generates, right? So we see that there's a hard occlusal contact that we found along the way. You can click the auto resolve button, but I can see pretty clearly that if I just tipped this premolar a little bit, then that resolves what would have was going to be the issue there. So let me know if you have any other questions. Otherwise, let's pause the video and see what the live update gives us. Okay, so 15 aligners where before it was 10 aligners, but a lot more predictability planned in here. Yes, I would want to go back and add a retention attachment here as we have plenty throughout the posterior. And that's really the key because as the curve of SPE is trying to is flatten, the aligner is trying to flatten. And as the aligner is expecting the teeth to go down into bone, if they resist, then the aligner is going to want to pop off the back aspect. And if you get the clearance that you're looking for at aligner 10, fantastic. If you don't have it quite yet, then you can keep on going through more of the aligners. So whether it's a optimized retention or there's a deep bite, why that went away, I'm not sure, or a rectangle, all that's good as long as there's an undercut surface and we don't have any unnecessary movements that aren't really directed towards the goal of the case. I hope this helps. Thanks so much.